Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Fenway Faithful. How is everybody doing? We just went live on the main channel, and now we're over here focusing on the Red Sox. I did get into a pretty big ramble over there on the Red Sox. I had to try and control myself as much as I could, because obviously over there I got to talk all things baseball, right? But over here I can kind of dive in a little bit more. Now, the talk of the town today has been Nolan Arenado. My goodness, Nolan Arenado. You got half of Red Sox fans that want Arenado. You got the other half that don't want Arenado. And, actually, I'll backtrack a little bit on that. I think most people, or you'll see the majority of people, maybe 60-40, that would like to have Arenado. The problem is what happens with Tristan Casas. I think that is where you look at it and I'd probably say, I don't know, I'd say maybe 90% want to keep Tristan Casas. I think that's fair. Maybe even 95. I think it's probably in the 90s somewhere. But the story is, why am I talking about Tristan Casas? Why am I talking about Nolan Arenado? What's going on with Alex Bregman? You got a lot of stuff going on right now. But we had this story drop today, right? We had, Cardinals Live over the weekend. Even myself, right, almost 3 weeks ago, I told everyone that Arenado saw Boston as a preferred destination. And, a couple weeks later, it came to fruition. Chris Cotillo, Sean McAdam, they got that story as well. And so it is now known out there that the Red Sox are a landing spot in Nolan Arenado's mind. Now, according to this report from John Denton today on MLB.com, he says here, the Red Sox have emerged as a strong candidate to land Arenado via a trade from the Cardinals. Boston could be close to pulling out of the sweepstakes for Alex Bregman, who could potentially command a deal worth $200 million. I'll get to this part in just a little bit. I think this is a key part in this whole thing. I'll talk about that in just a bit. Now, this is where Red Sox fans got very grumpy. However, a Cardinals-Red Sox swap could be contingent on the Cardinals swallowing a sizable chunk of the money still owed, and Boston also dealing first baseman Tristan Casas. Okay, now, that's a lot to digest, right? Well, why do we have to trade Tristan Casas? Why can't we just trade Masataka Yoshida? Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to break it to you. I think Masataka Yoshida is going to end up being on this team. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe a team at some point emerges and they see Yoshida as a guy that they could bring in to help their offense. There are still bats out there, at least with the projections as of right now. So who knows? Maybe the offseason unfolds a little bit, and maybe Yoshida could end up being a guy that ends up getting moved. But if I were to put money on it, and I've definitely been wrong a lot, I definitely could lose some money on that. I feel like Yoshida, because of the contract, because of the fact that, he lacks power as a DH, there's not really a whole lot of defense there with him. There's not really a whole lot of base running. He's really just a contact, like a decent contact bat that it's like more of like an Andrew Benintendi, right? That's how I see Yoshida. I see a guy that gets a lot of doubles. He can hit for a little bit of pop. He's like Andrew Benintendi, but doesn't have the defense. That's the problem with Yoshida. Not a lot of teams really want that. So that's where I'm thinking maybe a team towards the end of the offseason, maybe they see, okay, we need a bat. All right, the Red Sox, they got Yoshida. Maybe we could do something there. But if you're the Red Sox, you probably want to get something done here over the next month. We did see JD Martinez sign pretty late with the Red Sox at one point back in 2018. But you didn't have a Yoshida situation at that point, right? So, things would have to go pretty perfectly, I think, if you were going to move Yoshida and also bring in Arenado. I just feel like you're going to end up hanging on to the guy. Now, the easier solution, hear me out, Hear me out, because I know a lot of you get grumpy about Tristan Casas. I know I would like to keep Casas. I'm just putting that out there. I would like to keep that bat. But you got to think from other teams' point of views, front office point of views. They would much rather have someone like Tristan Casas. If you're asking, hey, we're trying to make room for Nolan Arenado, can you take Masataka Yoshida? Nah, we don't really want Yoshida. We don't like the projections with him. But we like Casas. We need something for first base. He's got more power upside. We think he can end up being a very good bat for us. We would rather have Casas. He's younger as well. He's cheaper. Casas is definitely more desirable than Yoshida. That's why I think there's a better chance Casas ends up getting moved, whether you like it or not. I'm not here to, I'm here to go down the middle, right? I'm not saying I would like to trade Casas. I'm not saying I would like to, not trade him, whatever. I'm looking at it from the point of view of a front office. That's how I see it, personally. And I think Casas, because he's cheap, young, has projectable upside, teams are going to look at him and be like, yeah, I would rather have that guy, all right? But now you're thinking, well, why would the Red Sox want to move him? Well, you need to shore up the defense in the infield. Whether you like that or not, whether you like it, that defense was atrocious last year. Trevor Story, hopefully he can stay healthy, for crying out loud, over a full season. Hopefully. That would help. That would definitely help. Second base, you also need to make sure that's shored up as well. Third base, though, Rafi, yes, there have been some improvements. Sure, there's been some little things. Alex Cora talked about it with Rafi, or with me the other day, said, hey, Rafi, there's, sure, the numbers are the numbers, but he sees some good things. Now, personally, I think he's putting over Rafi to, first off, to keep him happy, right? Obviously. But I think also, when I connect the fact that he brought up Bryce Harper, how he moved from right field to first base. Remember that? People thought Bryce Harper was, going to be it was a terrible idea to move him to first base. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen? And now Bryce Harper is widely viewed as a solid first baseman. And that guy did it on the fly. All right, I know Bryce Harper's Bryce Harper, different player from Rafael Devers. But when I was hearing Cora say that about Rafi and bringing up Harper, kind of made me think he probably thinks Rafi could do an okay job at first base. Now, when it comes to this whole situation, I personally think I see a lot of people thinking if you bring in Arenado, you trade Casas, it's the end of the world. I don't think it's the end of the world. I see other podcasts out there saying, oh, we're going to be losing the middle of the order bat. Sure. Yeah, you would lose some offense, but you got to remember, teams think in terms of wins. They don't look at yes, you look at players, but they're thinking in terms of wins. As of right now, Nolan Arenado is projected for a 3.0 F-WAR. Tristan Casas is projected for a 2.5. If you think you have a guy that can handle first base, Arenado, you bring him in. He probably has better numbers at Fenway Park. That 3.0 F-WAR probably goes up closer to 4 if you put him at Fenway Park with the Green Monster. I guarantee he gets 25 home runs at least. I think he would. All right, at least they project him for 23. I think you would be right around that, if not more. I think Arenado, people always say, oh, he's regressing. I had someone today tell me that he's almost 40 years old. And I'm thinking, huh? 40 years old? Arenado's almost 40. He's about to turn 34, right? I mean, goodness gracious. Adrian Beltre is putting up great numbers at 37 years old. I mean, I'm just saying, I think Arenado, there is more in that bat. Now, again, I'm looking at it in terms of what is the best team that you could put out there? If I'm, looking at it from a whole bunch of different angles, I'm looking at what is the best way to build the best team by checking off as many boxes as you can. One box you got to check off is infield defense. You have to check that off. You just have to, right? Also getting a right-handed bat. Well, Arenado checks off those two boxes. Tristan Casas, yeah, you'd be losing him, but Rafi, obviously one of the best bats in the game, and he's also a left-handed bat, he would just take over for Casas. you're not moving Yoshida. That's what people need to get in their head. That's very unlikely that a team is going to take on any of that contract. I think it's very unlikely. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I'm just trying to give you some truth. I just don't see it happening. If the Red Sox are trying to put together the best squad possible, I'm not saying it's the best idea, but that's how I think they're thinking. I think they're looking at it from trying to check off as many boxes as they can. Arenado checks off the right-handed bat and the defense. Yes, he'd be losing Casas, but then Rafi replaces him at first. That's the way I see it. Not saying it's my opinion. I just think I'm saying my opinion is that's what I think the front office is thinking. All right. But now let's get to the other part of this. All right. I basically just covered all right, hold on a second. Let me finish off the Tristan Casas stuff. Now, I think that's another part of it too. If you end up moving Casas, which again, I would like to keep that bat in the lineup if possible. If you can move Yoshida, do that. But if you can't, and you want to improve the defense, well, then Casas might be a guy that you have to move. Well, now, you might be thinking here, well, I don't want to move Casas. Well, you know what? Whatever. Casas has good value. You got to look at it from that point of view too, right? Right now, baseball trade values, you're looking at right around $30 million of value. Median. That's pretty low, but still very good, right? If the Red Sox could bring in major league ready talent to help out the team, let's say a closer like Andres Munoz, something like, just an example I'm throwing out there, maybe you could bring in some major league pieces as well as some pretty good prospects, right? Maybe someone like Bubba Chandler you could bring in. That would be a great pitching prospect to add. Pirates could use a bat. They could use more bats. But Salty Grampy, not trading Casas, that's dumb. But it's like, I don't know. It's like, I could sit here and say, like, it's like, I get it. Some of you are, you're not going to, I get it. It's going to be completely impossible to convince. Now, I'm just putting forth what I think the front office is thinking. I'm looking at it. Well, let me finish this up here. Tristan Casas could bring you back some pretty good pieces at the major league level. You could also bring in some prospects, right? But I'm looking at it in terms of wins. I'm not looking at fully what the slash line is. That's not how I look. Yes, I like the slash line. I like those sexy numbers. They do look pretty good. But I'm also looking at the defense. You have to remember, there's offense and there's defense. Run prevention is just as important as runs scored. All right, talked about this just on my last show over on the main channel. There's two sides to the argument here. Two sides, right? Run prevention is just as important as runs scored. And I'll guarantee you this. Garrett Crochet, Walker Buehler, Tanner Houck, those guys would love Nolan Arenado on the mound. Or they would love to be on the mound with Nolan Arenado behind them. Absolutely, they would love that, right? To have his defense behind them on a pull side for righties and Oppo for lefties. And then you got Trevor Story at shortstop. Pitchers would feel so comfortable with Arenado and Trevor Story behind them. Just saying. I would even bet money that if you asked one of those pitchers, if you could pick, who would you rather have? It'd be an interesting question. I wonder. They would never answer it. But if you ask them, would they rather have the elite defense of Arenado or the bat of Casas? I guarantee you one of them would say the defense. I wonder. I think that's an interesting question from the pitcher point of view. But again, runs scored is important, but runs prevented is also important. That's how teams look at it as well. Runs prevented, run prevention has become so much more big in front offices and constructing teams. Just saying, man. Again, I'm looking at it from what is the best possible team that you could put on the field, right? Yeah, Casas, I would love him. I would love to keep him, but If that's the way it ends up having to be, but then you end up getting back some good pieces for him, I personally don't think it's the end of the world. You know, I don't. I don't think it's the end of the world. I don't think it's, I mean, yeah, you could find some arguments for why you wouldn't like it or why you don't think it's a good idea. I mean, yeah, those arguments are going to be there. But again, I know the infield was horrendous last year. That's just the way I see it, man. I look at offense and defense, right? You know, that's it. Again, I'll say it one more time. Front offices look in terms of wins, not players, right? That's how they look at it. That's not my opinion. I'm just telling you that's how they look at it, right? Now, a fair question. Well, what about Alex Bregman? Now, I think that is the answer for everything here. That's the answer for all of this. Get back to this part. Boston could be close to pulling out of the sweepstakes for third baseman Alex Bregman. Bregman is the guy I think checks off all the boxes. Well, you just bring him in. He ends up just sliding into second base. And at some point, if he ends up taking over third, you find a way to move Yoshida. Well, then there you go. That is what I would do. Personally, that's what I would do. That's the easiest way. I wonder if this could be a leverage play. Boston could be close to pulling out of the sweepstakes for Alex Bregman. Bregman's market, listen, man, Bregman's market, you got to think here. It's the Tigers, maybe the Mets. I mean, I don't think the Mariners are going to pay up for him. You know, who at this point could be a team for Alex Bregman? I mean, I don't see the Nationals doing it. Maybe they could come out of nowhere. I don't see that, though. Brady House is a young prospect for them. Well, definitely not. The Reds were looking for a third baseman. They got Gavin Lux. Now I guess he's going to be a third baseman. I don't see the A's doing it, right? I mean, nope. Mariners, nope. They're not going to spend the money. Angels, nope. Not happening. I mean, what? The Tigers, yeah, they make a lot of sense. I mean, if I keep on looking, I don't know, man. You know, the Cubs, I guess, have been connected at some points, but I don't know. Are they going to go with Matt Shaw? Could the Cubs maybe do some kind of a situation where they move Nico Hoerner? Maybe move Nico Hoerner to the Mariners. Matt Shaw could be your second baseman. Maybe Alex Bregman could be an option for the Cubs. I don't know. We haven't heard a whole lot there. You know, maybe the Cubs could be playing in the shadows a little bit. The Mets, you know, they have been connected, but I think they're just going to go Pete Alonso. But who knows? Maybe they end up, but again, you'd be pivoting to a more expensive option with Bregman. I feel like when you pivot, you go to the less expensive option. Phillies, they were mentioned at times, but they can't move Alec Bohm. Blue Jays are, yes, of course, the Blue Jays, but does he want to go there? It's a whole big question mark right now. Vlad, you know, I don't see it, man. I don't see, if Vlad is not signed up long-term, I just don't see, I don't see Bregman going there, right? I mean, if you keep going down the list, I mean, the Astros aren't bringing him back. I mean, that's pretty much it. So I wonder if the Red Sox right now are reading this like the JD Martinez situation back from 2018. They see a market that is not very big, right? They see the Tigers possibly, but there's been reports the Tigers are not willing to go that many years for Alex Bregman. At some point, the Tigers, maybe, you know, they have to decide here what is the best option for them moving forward. But then again, maybe the Tigers could wait this out too. But maybe this is what the Red Sox are trying to do. Maybe they're using the Arenado talks here as leverage. Maybe they're saying, hey, listen, we'd like to have you. These are the terms that we would like. But if you're not willing to meet us, then, you know, we got Arenado out there that maybe we can make a deal for. Maybe that is a bit of a push to get Bregman to come down just a little bit. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. It's possible. Leverage is always something that's played. We'll see. And there's the people out there that say, just pay Alex Bregman. Just give him the money. Listen, this is kind of how negotiations work. The Red Sox, they probably think they don't need to bid against themselves. Maybe could they come up with it? They just see the value there. They probably see what they think he's worth, and they're willing to go to a certain point. And I think the Tigers are right there too. So again, could this be a bit of posturing? Could this be some leverage? It's possible. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. But I don't know. I would not be surprised if the Red Sox pivoted to Arenado. I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. But I am going to hold out the fact that maybe Bregman still could be possible. We've seen many times over the years where you see a reporter put out a line like that where, they could be, maybe pulling out. They could be not interested anymore. And then all of a sudden something ends up happening. That has happened in the past. Again, I think it's just, there's a lot of things going on here. And another thing too, I don't think you're not going to see Arenado come to the Red Sox unless Casas is traded first. Because if you trade for Arenado, well, now you're really going to lose leverage on Casas. So I will say this, if there is a trade for Arenado to happen, Casas is going to be the one to move first. That's kind of the way I see it. Because if you bring in Arenado, teams are going to see that. And they're just going to completely... The Red Sox would be backed into a corner at that point. That's just the way I see it. Again, if Arenado happened, I wouldn't be mad at it. Now, I would be sad if Casas ended up getting moved. But I'd have to see the final product. I'll say this. Again, Arenado is projected for a 3.0 wins above replacement on Fangraphs. Casas is projected for a 2.5. Arenado, I think, gets a little bit higher on that when he comes to Fenway Park. I think you see a boost in the offense there. So Arenado, he would be giving you a better F-WAR at that point, right? Again, I'll say it. Teams look for wins. Bring in Arenado, you trade Casas, get some major league ready pieces back. Maybe, for example, someone like Munoz, an elite closer in the game. Liam Hendricks is a free agent after this year. Munoz could be your closer for the next 4 years or so. And he's cheap. That's a decent option. So you'd have that for the next several years. Maybe even get a prospect along with it. Because, if you're thinking about leverage, the Mariners, they need bats. You might have something there. Right, they may be able to line up on some, maybe even get a prospect out of it, right? And then if you go out on the market, then maybe you could add something else, right? I know I've mentioned Munoz. If not Munoz, maybe something else. I don't know. I'd have to think of what else you could get back if it's not pitching for Casas, unless you just did prospects. I don't know. But then you can turn to the free agent market, and maybe you could turn to Tanner Scott, who Jim Bowden talked about today. I was very confused about this one. I wanted to post it. I saw none of the Red Sox aggregators out there, like Tyler Milliken, Boston Sports Gordo. I saw they hadn't posted it. And I was reading this and I'm like, do I want to comment on this? I don't know, because it felt weird reading this. It says here, he gave his updated predictions for free agency. He says here, the most impactful closer on the market has yet to sign, and teams are lining up for him, but waiting for the asking price to drop. The Red Sox are the clear frontrunners for Scott. Now, when I was in school, the way I was taught to write essays, you make a statement, and then you make supporting sentences. So the way I read this was the intro to the paragraph. Here was your first statement. And then that's when you bring in the supporting sentences. And his supporting sentences here were, Craig Breslow was a left-handed reliever in his playing days and seems obsessed with corralling left-handed pitchers. He's already signed Sandoval, Chapman, Wilson, acquired Crochet, Moran. So I'm thinking, like, are you saying he's the clear, they're the clear front runners for Scott based off of the fact that Craig likes bringing in these lefties and he was a left-handed reliever as well? That's where I got confused about this. Now, yeah, this is a pretty strong statement. The Red Sox are the clear front runners for Scott. Are you saying that based off of something, what you've heard? Or are you saying that based off of an opinion? That's where I couldn't figure that out. I would like to lean towards the former. I think that makes more sense. But again, I feel like he would have put that. Based off of what I heard, the Red Sox are the clear front runners for Scott. Why didn't you just put that part, based off of what I've heard? I think that would have made more sense. But instead, he was putting the reasoning behind it, saying Craig was lefty, it was a lefty pitcher. He's brought in lefties. So I'm like, what are you saying? I don't know. I don't know if I would like to think yes, the Red Sox, according to Bowden, sound like a front runner to sign him. Right? We'll see. But if they brought in Tanner Scott, right? If you moved Casas, got back at the minimum some very good prospects, like Bubba Chandler from the Pirates or whatever it may be, and then you bring in a high-end reliever, right? Well, then you're looking pretty good. At that point, like I said, Arenado has the higher F4 for this coming year, at least as of right now, compared to Casas. And then you add someone like Tanner Scott, maybe Jeff Hoffman, or if the return ends up being someone like Andres Munoz, well, then you've gotten pretty good there, right? The infield defense is shored up. You probably get a bit more out of the bat with Arenado at Fenway Park. Raffy, the bad defense, you're taking that off, so that's addition by subtraction. Whatever, the defense, first base, I don't know how that goes, but they probably think he can handle it. It keeps being brought up, so I feel like it's an idea that's probably been floated around. If they think Raffy can handle it, well, we all know Raffy's the better bat than Casas, so if you're looking at it from the bat point of view at the position, well, Raffy clears out. Arenado is going to give you the better defense at third, add some bullpen help for late in games, prospects maybe, and then at some point you end up getting Roman Anthony and Christian Campbell on the major league roster, especially Roman Anthony. I'll say this, if what I said, everything I said ends up happening, and Roman Anthony ends up coming up and the Red Sox are winning and he's doing well, Christian Campbell comes up as well, he starts just hitting the crap out of the ball, I guarantee everyone, if the Red Sox are in first place, they have Arenado, they have Tanner Scott, or whoever it may be, the rotation's doing well, the offense is doing enough, and Roman Anthony is up and just doing extremely well, guarantee no one even thinks about Tristan Casas at that point. I mean, I don't know. Like, am I wrong? Right? If the Red Sox do all of this, and they're playing well, and they're in first in the division, does anyone even think about this? I don't know. Maybe. Again, I'm not trying to speak down on Casas. Like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to put a different spin on it. Trying to just, I don't know. Like, I feel like we're just looking at it in terms of just, we're not looking at the whole picture. We're only looking at one angle of it. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. And maybe I'm wrong, and I'm willing to admit if I'm wrong. But again, I'm not saying I want to trade him. But I'm just looking at it from what is the best possible team. What is going to give you a check mark in every area of the game. Offense, defense, starting pitching, bullpen. Yeah, you can maybe say the offense takes a bit of a hit possibly if you take out Casas. Yeah, sure, I'm willing to say that. But if the offense takes a bit of a hit, but they're producing enough runs and they're doing enough, and the pitching ends up being the strong point of the team, the starting pitching is rolling, the bullpen is nails, the defense is good, and they're doing enough on the offense, and it's winning you games, I don't know, man. Like, again, I don't think that sounds all doom and gloom. And then you also look at it from this point of view. I'll throw in one more caveat with that. One more caveat. What if all of this, what if the idea of Casas, one other little detail that comes into play there, what if Vlad Jr. is the long game here? What if they're looking ahead? What if they're looking at 2026? Vlad Jr., if they can't figure something out in Toronto, maybe they see him, hey, he's out there, he's on the market. Maybe they go after him. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the way I look at it, man. I think the Red Sox, they're trying to build the best possible team now, but also, and I already know someone's going to say this, but they're also looking towards the future. Well, Tristan Casas should be a part of the future. Well, I mean, listen, sometimes you can't have it all. And I guarantee I'm going to get nailed for this or whatever it may be, but I'm just trying to put a different spin on this for all of you. In the end, I'd rather just sign Alex Bregman. I think that would be the best solution, but I don't know. Is this a leverage play? I'm not sure. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what's going on. I know nothing. I'm reading what we got out there and I'm reacting to it, but we will see. We will see. Nick Uber, Casas has one season. Casas could very well be better. I don't see that. I don't see that. Oh man, that's a stretch. Casas ends up being a better bat than Devers? I don't know about that one. I don't know. You got to prove it first. You got to prove it. I would love it. I would love if Casas is just as good of a hitter than Devers. I would love that. Don't get me wrong. I think that would be great. And it'd be cheaper too. You got to stay on the field first. You got to show that you're healthy. You got to show that you can play a full season consistently. He missed a lot of time this past year, you know? And I guess from what I've been seeing out there, maybe the Red Sox, other people talking about it, other podcasts and whatnot, maybe the Red Sox weren't, they weren't too high on that. So I don't know, man. We'll see. I would love for Casas to do well, and I'd love for him to have a long career at Fenway Park, but at the end of the day, we can sit here and talk. We can sit here and just ramble, which is what I do. I don't know, man. I say we just wait and see. Let things play out. I think Craig, he's made some good moves already up to this point. Let's wait and see before we jump off a bridge. Let's wait and see. At the end of the day, you just got to let it play out. But everyone, I'm going to wrap this up here. Hopefully we get some news or something this week. I think we're all going a little crazy right now over all this stuff. I think everyone's getting grumpy. At the end, we just want the best team on the field. We want to win some games, right? Let's see what that process, trust the process. That's the one thing I always like to tell myself. Trust the process. I think the Red Sox, in the end, they're going to put together a pretty good team, and they're going to be a competitive team no matter how that unfolds, right? How we get there, I don't know. But I would say this. I'll bet some money that Arenado or Bregman, one of those guys are going to be on the Red Sox. One of those guys will be a Boston Red Sox. I think I'm pretty confident about that. For Casas, well, I don't know about that. We'll see. But everyone, I'm out of here. I'm going to wrap this up. If you can on the way out, hit that like button for me. The goal for tonight was 100 likes. If you are new to the channel, think about subscribing. We are trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by opening day. 3K by opening day. Can we get there? I hope we can. We'll see. But everyone, go have yourself a good rest of your night, and I'll talk to you next time.